What if there was one key missing ingredient between you and total mastery over yourself, your habits, and your life? Let me share with you what it is. Hello, my name is Nicholas Rave, and welcome to the very first video on the Radical Self-Discipline YouTube channel. In this short video, I want to talk with you about habits. Why habits are so important, and why most people can't easily make changes to their habits. Let's start with why habits are so important. Getting to the place where you can easily and reliably make changes to your habits, where you can get rid of unwanted ones and you can install new ones, is one of the most essential steps in creating the life of your dreams. I will even go so far as to say that any real success is impossible if you don't have mastery over your habits. Mastery over your habits is mastery over yourself. See, the primary benefit of a habit is that once something becomes a habit, it doesn't require the same amount of effort. That's kind of the definition of a habit. Think of all the habits you have now, all the things you do every day that you don't really think about. You don't have to think about them, you just do them. Brushing your teeth, for example, probably doesn't require a lot of willpower on your part to get yourself to do it every day. As a matter of fact, it would probably feel weird if you didn't do it. But that wasn't always the case. There was a time when brushing your teeth was not a habit. But once it became a habit, it doesn't require any effort on your part, or very little effort on your part, to do it every day. I like to think of habits as a way that you can kind of outsource your willpower to your unconscious mind. But habits are a double-edged sword. Interestingly, the greatest benefit of a habit is also their greatest danger, and that is that once something becomes a habit, it takes more effort to get yourself to stop. This is so important because the truth is, basically everything you do is a habit. I've seen studies that show that more than 90% of our behavior, more than 90% of our thoughts every day are habitual. We think and do what we think and do every day because it's what we thought and did yesterday. And what this means is that most people are living their lives on autopilot. Most people say to themselves, I'm going to change. Things aren't always going to be this way. My life in the future isn't going to just be the same, but with maybe a different job and a different house and me older. But the harsh reality is that that's exactly what happens in most people's lives. And the reason is because people don't change their habits. To a very real extent, your life is the product of your habits. At least 90% of it is. That means if you want to change your life, you have to change your habits. You have to be able to change your habits. Let's take the example of exercise. I look at it this way. If you're going to build the habit of exercise, it is going to require you to put in some amount of effort. Any change requires some new input into the system. The question is, are you going to put that effort into forcing yourself to go to the gym every day, even when you really don't want to? Or are you going to put that effort into training yourself to want to go to the gym? See, most people think that the way to build a habit is to just do it, thank you Nike, for a certain number of days until it magically becomes a habit. How many days? Some people say 21 days, some 28 days, some 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, some even more. That's all bullshit. The most comprehensive study ever done, performed by University College London, examined the habits of 96 people and found that it took anywhere from 18 to 254 days for people to successfully form a new habit. But see, this makes me think of a very specific question. What were the 18-day people doing that the 254-day people were not? And I'm here to tell you that if you understand the differences between those two, it doesn't even have to take you 18 days. It doesn't even have to take you 18 minutes. Human beings are capable of learning a new habit instantly in the right circumstances. Think about a child that touches a hot stove. New habit. On the other hand, you can consistently do something every day for a year or more and not have it become a habit. You absolutely can force yourself to do something for 21 or 28 or 30 or 60 or 90 days or 10 years. But if you hate it every single time you're doing it, you don't have a habit yet. That is why it's so important to learn how habits work and how you can train them. Because if you're doing it wrong, you could put all that effort in and never have the behavior become habitual. It comes back to the definition of habit again. If you don't genuinely and authentically miss going to the gym, if you skip a day, it's not a habit yet. So what is the missing factor? What is the thing that prevents people from being able to easily change their habits? I will tell you, and there is one key, one thing that makes all the difference when it comes to habits. In order to understand this key, we have to talk about the very basics of how habits are formed. There's a great book called The Power of Habits by Charles Duhigg. I should check on that. Yep, Charles Duhigg. And in that book, he explains that all habits have 3 steps. The trigger, sometimes called the cue, the behavior or action, that's the actual habit that you're doing, and the reward. That is the key. Admittedly, this is way oversimplified, but when most people think about a reward, they think, okay, so I'm gonna go get on the treadmill for 45 minutes, and then when I'm done, I'm gonna give myself a piece of chocolate. But here's the thing. When it comes to animals, you can train animals by giving them a treat. You can give a fish to a dolphin or a dog biscuit to a dog. But why does that work? It works because that's what the animal wants. It works because it makes the animal feel something. And it is that feeling, not the treat, that trains the behavior. So the question is, what do you want? As a human animal, what do you want? Well, I'm going to simplify this. If you chunk up on all possible rewards, if you abstract on all possible rewards and ask yourself, what am I really getting out of this? There's actually only one thing. One thing that is behind every possible reward you could think of. Only one real reward. One thing that all animals want. The key is pleasure. And I'm here to tell you that if you can't, right now, instantly, make any change to any habit that you want, I can virtually guarantee you, you are blocked in your capacity to feel pleasure. Let me put this another way. If you can get a person to feel enough pleasure, and you can connect that pleasure to a behavior, you should be able to get that person to do and want to do literally anything consistently, instantly. It's the exact opposite of the kid reaching out and touching the hot stove. In that case, intense pain creates a connection unconsciously that will never be broken. The same thing can happen with pleasure. Now, you might be saying to yourself, but Nicholas, I can feel pleasure. I feel pleasure all the time. Do you though? Have you ever heard the story about the frog in the boiling water? Where if you take a frog and you drop them in a pot of boiling water, they hop out. But if you drop the frog into a pot of lukewarm water and then you bring it slowly and gradually to a boil, the frog will just sit there until it dies. We, as human animals, are not good at noticing gradual changes. We don't notice the numbing we experience as we disconnect from our bodies. If I could take you right now and pull you out of your body and stick you into your own body when you were 5 to 7 years old, you would feel like you were on drugs. You wouldn't even be able to handle how differently you used to feel. We have all forgotten what it is supposed to feel like to be alive. Pleasure is something that happens in the body, not in the mind. How do I know that you probably can't feel pleasure as intensely as you could? Because you're watching this video. Because you don't yet have total mastery over yourself and your habits. But when you unlock that floodgate of pleasure, and you start to use pleasure and not pain as the primary method of training yourself and your behaviors, you step into a totally new paradigm of self-discipline. As I said at the beginning, if you want to change your life, you have to change your habits. And if you want to be able to change your habits, you must understand how pleasure works and how to use it to train yourself. If you want to be successful, you have to get to the point where your habits are in your control, where you can turn them on and turn them off. You can install one here and remove one there. And if you'd like to hear more about this master key for mastering habits, I'd like to invite you. Myself and my business partner are hosting a webinar for free tomorrow night. That's Tuesday, October 18th at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. The webinar is called How to Build Sticky Habits, and we're going to deep dive for 1 hour into these topics. What makes habits stick? And most importantly, what are the mistakes that keep people stuck with their habits? So, if you're interested in mastering your habits, if you're interested in mastering your life through mastering your habits, if you're interested in self-mastery and self-discipline and you want to be able to change your habits, that's what we're going to be talking about how you can learn how to do in our webinar, Sticky Habits, tomorrow night. The link to register for the webinar is in the description. The link to register is in the description for the video on YouTube. And I encourage you to register even if you can't make it to the live webinar, just to be sure that you get access to the replay if this is something that you're interested in. I hope very much to see you there, and I hope that some of what I shared here was valuable to you. Once again, I'm Nicholas Rave with Radical Self-Discipline. Thanks for watching and listening. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And most importantly, be radical.